You about this?
No.
So it turns out Constantine 2 might be running into some creative headaches, all thanks to Keanu Reeves not being too thrilled with how the script is shaping up. This comes straight from Peter Stormare, who played Lucifer in the original Constantine movie. According to him, Reeves is not so happy with the current drafts of the sequel. It's interesting because DC Studios is still very much committed to rolling out these Elseworld stories alongside James Gunn's new unified DC universe. And Keanu's Constantine, which first came out in 2005, is one of those unique standalone franchises that's being eyed for a comeback. Even though Constantine 2 has technically been in development since late 2022, it seems like the project is going through a bumpy patch. In a recent chat with The Direct, Stormare spilled some fresh details about how things are going behind the scenes, especially around how Reeves feels about it all. As Stormare put it, there's been a lot of back and forth because Keanu just isn't satisfied with what's coming out of the studio. Stormare explained it like this: the first Constantine wasn't exactly a smash hit right out of the gate. It ended up becoming one of those sleeper movies that eventually grew into a massive cult favorite. Now, it's considered a classic in its own right. But because it took time to build that reputation, the studio seems extra eager to make the sequel feel bigger. More cars flying through the air, more people flipping around, and more explosive action. Basically, they want it to be the kind of flashy comic book movie that dominates the box office. Keanu, on the other hand, doesn't want to go down that road. As Stormare put it, Reeves is like, "I've already done John Wick. This is supposed to be spiritual. It's about demons and regular people, and I want to keep it that way." Stormare even joked about how he'd love to reprise Lucifer by having God come down in the same black suit he wore before, even though he's 12 years older now and probably wouldn't look quite the same. But he also gets that Keanu wants to do a sequel that stays true to what made the first film so compelling, which is more about the eerie, supernatural atmosphere than just stacking action scenes on top of each other. Now, hearing that Reeves isn't exactly over the moon about the script might sound worrying, but it's also worth keeping in mind that he hasn't publicly commented on it himself. We're only getting this through Stormare. Plus, scripts tend to evolve a ton during this part of the process, so there's still plenty of room for fixes and rewrites before cameras ever roll. That said, it's not shocking at all to hear there might be pressure from the studio to crank things up. In today's landscape, comic book adaptations are expected to deliver these huge, world-ending stakes and bombastic set pieces. That's the formula a lot of studios chase because it seems safer for box office returns. It does help that Francis Lawrence, who directed the original Constantine, is back in the director's chair. So there's hope that he, along with writer Akiva Goldsman, might find a sweet spot that balances what Keanu wants with what the studios think will sell. But if they can't figure that out, it honestly wouldn't be surprising to see Constantine 2 quietly get shelved like so many other comic book projects before it. Especially now that James Gunn is running DC Studios, there's this clear rule that nothing moves forward without a strong script in place, and that's exactly how it should be for Constantine 2. Stormare's comments really highlight just how crucial it is for them to get the story right. The sequel needs to be something that clicks not only with Reeves and the returning cast, but also with audiences who fell in love with the first film's vibe. Keanu is such a linchpin for this project that if he's not fully on board, the whole thing could fall apart. Ideally, they'll craft a story that captures everything Reeves appreciated about the original, while still giving studio execs something they can sell. But for now, all we can really do is wait and see how it all plays out. Adding another interesting layer to this whole situation is what James Gunn recently said during his press tour for Superman. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Gunn dropped this intriguing bit about an Elseworlds movie that was pitched to him by a very, very, very famous movie actor. And the way Gunn described it, it's hard not to think he was talking about Constantine 2. Gunn explained that there's definitely space for all sorts of stories in DC's future. When it's someone like Matt Reeves, whom Gunn deeply respects for being able to blend blockbuster spectacle with real artistry, it's worth listening. But even then, he stressed that the script still needs to be solid. They're not about to just green-light something because of who's attached to it. Gunn even told this mystery A-lister, who pitched him an Elseworld story, that the whole thing would hinge on the script. He literally said, "If it's a masterpiece, I'll make it, but it has to be a masterpiece." That apparently made the actor kinda squirm, and Gunn laughed about how the guy admitted, "I don't know if it's a masterpiece yet." So now that person is still working on it, trying to get it up to snuff. It's also telling that Gunn brought up how being an Elseworld story means they're okay with potentially confusing a few people, just as long as they're super clear about what's DCU canon and what isn't. But he also made a big point about not handing out DC properties like party favors, letting people whip up low-budget side projects without oversight just to make a quick buck on licensing fees. They're determined to maintain a level of quality control across everything. So, when you line up Gunn's comments with everything Stormare recently shared, it feels like the dots connect directly to Constantine 2 and Keanu Reeves. It makes sense. Keanu absolutely fits Gunn's description of a massive star. Thanks to the continued success of the John Wick movies and the return of The Matrix, Reeves is as in demand now as he's ever been. And then there's the fact that Gunn said the actor wasn't sure the script was quite at masterpiece level yet. Exactly what we're hearing from Stormare about Keanu's dissatisfaction with how Constantine 2 is being written. The bigger takeaway is that this means Constantine 2 still has a chance, just with a seriously tough road ahead. Gunn's DC Studios has already shown they're flexible enough to pivot if something truly phenomenal crosses their desks. Look at Mike Flanagan's Clayface movie. That wasn't part of the original slate at all, but the script was apparently so good it jumped the line, and now it's heading for a 2026 release. That proves even with a tight plan, there's room to adapt if the quality is undeniable. So, despite Constantine 2 being an Elseworlds project that technically doesn't have to align with the main DCU, it still needs to be exceptional to get the green light. Gunn's words were clear. It has to be near masterpiece material. That's definitely a tall order. And that's where some of the worry comes in. Because if Reeves still isn't happy with how the story is coming together, there's a real chance this sequel might just quietly fade away. But on the flip side, if they do manage to nail it, if Keanu and the team figure out how to deliver a story so strong that even Gunn can't say no, then we could end up with a Constantine 2 that's everything fans have hoped for and more. Honestly, that's kind of the best possible scenario. It's stressful knowing there's a chance it might never happen, but it also means if it does, it'll be because it was simply too good not to make. That high bar ensures we wouldn't get some watered-down cash grab or a messy sequel that doesn't honor what made the first movie special. It would exist only because everyone involved believed it was worth it, and that's the sort of movie that usually ends up being pretty amazing. So even though we're stuck waiting, at least there's a solid chance all this careful scrutiny will lead to the absolute best version of Constantine 2 we could ever get. And that's that for today's video, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.